Well, I hope you like the name of the presentation there. I thought we've got to keep it interesting, right? So if only I did have my Pit Vipers. I did order them. They haven't arrived yet. A lot of blockchains have brands. And in Solana, the Pit Vipers is certainly the brand for Solana, right? In Bitcoin, you've got a bunch of angry people. In Ethereum, you've got lots of magical unicorns. So this is what it's all about at Solana. But today, I think I just want to give a bit of a background on Solana. You know, I haven't really met too many Solana people since I've been here, so maybe I'm the token representative. But you know, it's obviously something that's very hot right now, especially in the DeFi world. So let's just go a bit of an overview. I'm the co-founder of Step Finance. Step Finance, we say, is the front page of Solana. Essentially, we're a portfolio aggregator for everything that's happening on the DeFi Solana world. So we have integrations with pretty much everyone, doing pretty much everything. So if there's anyone which can be at the center of this ecosystem, I definitely think it's us. But let's get into it. Pit Vipers and Boomtown vibes. I mean, obviously, it's been a bit of a Boomtown at the moment. This chart, which I've got here, look, I could have chosen any chart, right? Like, OK, let's go TVL. TVL from like 0 to 10 billion, like in 3-4 months, something like that. That's very well. That's doing very well, and it's just continuing to go up, so great. But what I've got here is a number of transactions. I think that's probably a relevant metric, right? Because it kind of means people are actually using the system. So, so here, like, number go up, great. It's all good. But look, the Solana ecosystem itself is growing very rapidly. Our project actually emerged out of a hackathon at the start of the year. And there's been quite a few Solana hackathons as well. And look, there's literally hundreds of projects at many of these hackathons. The last one, I think, had 10,000 participants signed up, which, hey, that's amazing. Does that mean 10,000 engineers and developers? Well, maybe. We'll get to that. As I say, TVL, zero to hero. NFTs, here's another good one, right? So look, we talk a lot about NFTs in this space, and a lot of people, obviously Ethereum's the primary location for that. But to actually have a $2 NFT, literally impossible. OK, go to OpenSea, try and do that. You're going to pay like $45 in fees just to approve a transaction. So, OK, maybe they exist on L2s, possibly. Or they exist on L1s, which are really fast and accessible and growing. So what we're actually seeing is the NFT space in Solana is doing really well. And look, we're really pumped with that. In terms of the ecosystem node growth, there's over 1,000 validators last time I looked, and 2.5 million unique accounts, which we'll get into in a moment. But as I think it was, there's that meme of the Microsoft guy. What is it? I forget his name, but he's like developers, developers, developers. That's kind of what it's like. And it's Solana. Solana is not EVM based, right? So the previous presentation with Polkadot and Moonbeam, fantastic. Ethereum, also obviously the pioneer of the EVM-based chains. And you've got a bunch of others around the ecosystem too. It makes it easy for developers to maybe switch across with an EVM chain. But people often say, well, hey, because Rust is not EVM, is that bad? Well, here's the thing. Rust itself is a programming language very similar to C++. There's literally more Rust developers in the world than Solidity devs. And there's a lot of people that are coming from it, from the C++ world, and just going straight into Solana and hopping in. In fact, most of our team came via that route. So look, Rust is not Solidity, and that's OK. That's one of the key messages. But also, you know, what we're seeing, I think, at the moment is there is a massive premium for engineers in the Solana space. Like, take whatever they're earning at Google or Facebook and then add 50%. And that's kind of the going rates right now. I wish it wasn't the way as someone which really wants to hire. But look, it is what it is. Builders make ecosystems. I mentioned before some of the different hackathons. Probably most of the good projects have emerged from hackathons. That's kind of what you see. It's a bit of a trend. And we got this tweet here from Chow. And look, I mean, he's seeing that a lot more people are coming into DeFi Alliance, one of the accelerators that is coming from Solana, and there's a couple of other similar people that have said the same thing. So replicating ETH or something new? All right, check out the meme. I created that myself. Thank you very much. It's not the best, but look, DCA contracts, this is how we got started in Solana. So actually, we set out to be a DCA platform. And what that means, it's dollar cost averaging, right? So we wanted users to be able to put in, say, some USDT, check a time period, maybe once a day, and you be able to nominate the coin that you want to buy, and then for you to be able, the contract to just do it, right? Now, we started off on Ethereum, and we built a contract there. If we had 6 users, it would cost $180 in transaction fees, completely unviable. So then we looked at, say, Matic. There was no liquidity at the time. A lot of the wrapped coins didn't exist. But when we actually looked at Solana, we were like, hey, all of the wrapped coins, or all the coins which you care about in the rest of DeFi, your sushis, your YFIs, all of these things, they're wrapped and they're on Solana. And by the way, they're liquid because the world's largest market maker, Alameda, is market making for them. So, so that was a really good thing. And our business model could literally exist on Solana, but pretty much nowhere else. So that's one unique aspect, is that if you're building something which does rely on these low-cost fees and liquidity pools particularly, then that's a good use case. I've got the CLOB DEXs, or Central Limit Order Book exchanges. Now, that's another thing which I think is unique to Solana, is essentially, in other blockchains, you have lots of siloed liquidity pools. I often call them walled gardens, but you have, like, Uniswap has a bunch of liquidity, Sushi has a bunch of liquidity, Balancer has a bunch of liquidity, and in most cases, a lot of them are accessible on the L1. Some case, it's a little bit fragmented, and some are on the L2, some are here, some are there, some are on a side chain. So liquidity is a little bit more fragmented in that sense, but with Solana, you actually have the speed and the ability to create one limit order DEX for the entire chain that's addressable from every contract in exactly one call. So I think that, look, that's a lot more efficient way to do it, is if you don't have these siloed liquidity pools. And what you see is people building certain applications like that rely on just having access to that one liquidity pool. So that's great. I mentioned the low-cost NFTs before. Look, it opens up new business models. If you can mint an NFT for 3 cents, that's something which opens up a whole new way. So I think, like, what are NFTs going for? I think eventually you'll get an NFT with your Big Mac, right? Or Pepsi will have it scannable on the bottom of a can. So if you want to go to that scale, and a lot of these corporates get in, they FOMO in, they go, oh, all the young people are using these NFTs, what are we going to do? We're going to make NFTs, and we're going to put them on our Pepsi cans. So in order to do that, you really need a scalable system to do that low cost. And look, I think Solana is showing that as well. Here's another thing, is that first-time users often have no other frame of reference. So this is often an overlooked thing, where people go, well, look, Uniswap has been around for years. Everyone knows Uniswap in the DeFi world. They were the pioneers. Fantastic. But a lot of new users, they have no idea about that. They don't know what Uniswap is. And when they come for the first time, a lot of these 2020, 2021 users that are coming on board, because they have this no frame of reference from prior history, they just think, oh, OK, you're telling me about this thing called Uniswap on another chain where it costs $50 to transact. Why would I do that? So on Solana, it's actually kind of starting fresh and new. That can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. Obviously, history matters. Having a reputation matters. Things which actually work matter. But look, I think that that's something that we're seeing quite a lot as well, with a lot of these new users. I alluded to it a little bit before, but the L1 is the L2. So in this case, what I'm trying to get across here is essentially, look, because everything is addressable on the same chain, on the same level, every contract, there's no walled gardens. It makes things just a lot easier to deal with, whether it's NFTs that are trying to be composable into an AMM that is then being used to be lent out on some other lending protocol. It just makes it a lot more easier. So look, we're building contracts that are composable, maybe a couple of layers deep. A lot of other people are as well. And you often see with some of the other layer 2s out there, say Arbitrum optimistic rollups, that's a 7-day wait period in order to go across the bridge, right? ZK rollups, love it. It's great. It's fast and quick. But again, these are still siloed. So having it just addressable on the same chain is fantastic. And yeah, I mean, look, I think we'll sort of end with this, and maybe we've got some time for some questions as well. But as I said, we're from Step Finance. We're kind of the one page where people can see all of their positions across everywhere. They can execute transactions across a lot of these DeFi projects. And yeah, what we're trying to see is we're seeing a lot of new builders coming into the ecosystem. We're seeing a lot of newbies that have never transacted before, some coming from BSC, some coming from other L2 chains somewhere. But look, a lot of these people, as I said, have no frame of reference, so that their first time is really experiencing Solana, and that's really great to see. And yeah, look, I say here, some teams can talk to humans and some not. This is another thing that we realize here at Step, is that because we have to have conversations with everyone, we have to be integrated with everyone. We also kind of realize the shortcomings of everyone as well. And some people do really well, but what this space is really lacking, and it's probably not a Solana thing, it's probably industry-wide, is people that can actually convey a message to other humans in a relevant and succinct manner, and not be as if you're talking to a robot or you're just going way over people's heads. So a lot of engineering-focused teams are like that, though, unfortunately. And often that can be to their detriment of getting traction in their product. You can have the world's best product, and it's fantastic, and you think it's great, but if nobody can understand it, nobody cares. So the point is that you need to have more people in the industry which can take that message. Documentation, something absolutely needed. So look, as I said, it's continuing to get built out. This year, we've seen a massive boom in Solana. We've got a lot of hackathons coming up. We've got the conference in Lisbon coming soon as well. We've got people like Alameda, who are main market makers for the chain, and it's very exciting. So creating something new, there's new possibilities there. Everything is fast and cheap. And I think a lot of the projects as well are trying to learn from the lessons from the past. You know, I bought Synthetics very early. I love the Synthetics team and their product. But you're seeing some of the platforms that are building pretty much the same thing within like 1 month, because a lot of the lessons having been learned previously are now being adapted much quicker. It's kind of the China strategy. I lived in China for 6 years. But yeah, so look, I think it's an exciting space. So open to questions if anyone's interested. Thank you very much.
Awesome, George. Thanks so much for that great presentation. As I said, I really loved the title. So now, having met you, I understand why. Maybe let's just open the floor if anybody wants to ask any questions to George about Step Finance, or more importantly, any Solana. Just raise your hand. Let's go. Wow.
Everyone just, it's solved.
George, what were you doing before you set up Step? What was your background, and how did you get involved with the Solana guys?
Yeah, so I actually started the first remittance company in crypto like 6-7 years ago, called BitSpark. So yeah, my background, I guess, I've been in crypto for 10 years. I was one of the first miners. I was one of the first FPGAs, one of the first ASIC owners. So I've kind of been around the bush. I've seen it all. But yeah, I think building on DeFi is so much easier. The thing is, when you're dealing with on and off ramps all over the place and building an exchange, you have to talk to banks, you have to talk with regulators, blah, blah, blah. It's very difficult. But look, if you're building on DeFi, the back end pretty much, it does all the work for you from a server standpoint. You're not, calling up AWS and having these servers in a centralized ecosystem. So no, look, Solana is just way easier to build on, and we're really happy to be there.
It's great to see you going from strength to strength. We've got 2 questions. Ladies first, so let's kick it off here, and I'll be right with you after, sir.
Thank you. I'm Samantha from Yap Global. For those who, because there's so many different blockchains, right? Like for those who want to get involved with Solana, like where do you even begin? Because I think people are more familiar with Ethereum, but not so much Solana. Absolutely.
Look, the best place is obviously the Solana website, but it depends who you are. Like, who are you? Are you a developer and you want to get involved? Are you someone who's not a developer, non-technical, and you want to get involved? Are you an investor? So it really depends on the type of person. But look, developers, there's a lot of developer resources now, not as much as on Ethereum. That's definitely one con. So look, that's getting built out. But yeah, look, join the Discords. Go and talk to some of these projects. Get involved. I always say, that there's a couple of people that have come to me and they're like, hey, I want to get a job and this sort of thing. It's like, okay, well, what do you do? What can you actually go and do something? And then everyone will realize that you're awesome at that thing, and then you'll get hired like instantly. So yeah, look, I think just get out there, get involved, and yeah, try and connect with some of these people.
Gentleman had a question here.
Yeah, hi. Sandwich attacks, MEV, all this stuff. Okay, less than an Ethereum, I guess, but is it completely impossible on Solana? Or what?
Sorry, the question again?
Front running on the mempool, is that possible on Solana or impossible? Is that just less than Ethereum, or is it impossible?
I think it's less. I think Anatoly did a write-up about this a while back. He's one of the founders of Solana. So I don't think anyone has really solved the front-running problem. The way that blocks get ordered in Solana is essentially there is a random validator who is selected each block period, in order to be the person who verifies that transaction. So unlike some of the mineable, extractable value stuff, which happen on Ethereum, where if you can co-opt enough miners to secure your block and before other people, then maybe you get in and you can front run people. On Solana, you can't really do that because you can't predict who's going to be the next person to verify the block. So there's that, but it's not completely solved. I don't think anyone's really solved it. But you know what? It's probably a smaller issue than people make it out to be. So, yeah.
What do you think the project pipeline looks like going forward? And what type of sectors within the crypto space do you think those projects will be in?
Yeah, so for us, we see a lot of obviously the yield farming aggregators, right? Like that's usually how a lot of new chains bootstrap themselves. Is if you have no liquidity on your chain, nobody cares. So you've actually got to have some incentives for people to want to come there. So look, I think there's going to be more of that, but there's a lot more interesting, I think, derivative products as well. We're seeing perps happening on chain within the layer 1 of Solana. So perps are addressable, between every other contract, which is going to be awesome. Yeah, look, I think it starts with financial products, it starts with liquidity, and then who knows where things go. Like gaming, there's a couple of gaming platforms which are doing really well. So hey, maybe that's something to look at.
And you mentioned synthetics, and you were an early investor in that. I was also a very early investor in synthetics, but it used to be called Haven, and this was before they pivoted into that. They had a stable coin. So it's nice to see those guys do some well. But I think actually Kane is here, if anyone's got a chance to heard him speak earlier on. Where can we find out more about you? How can we keep in contact with you? What's the best websites or Twitter handles?
Yeah, I'm George_Harrap on Twitter. Search Step Finance, we're also there. That's probably the best way. Otherwise, yeah, feel free to meet me after and we can exchange telegrams. It's great to see a crypto conference where everyone's just exchanging telegrams because this is the way. So, yeah.